Good morning, everyone. My name is Tony Holowitz, and I want to thank you for being here and listening to this podcast. Every once in a while, I have a situation where I'm working with a client, and they have a situation that gets me to thinking. And currently, I'm working with a client, and what we are doing right now is we're trying to add fields to Act to hold the data that they deem is relevant and necessary to best work with their business. And a lot of times when you're entering a lot of data, I am a big fan of checkboxes. And what a checkbox is exactly that. It's a checkbox. And the way I always describe it is, imagine you're in the ice cream business and you're trying to track who likes a certain kind of ice cream. And in this case, we're going to track vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry ice cream. So what you could do is you could create a checkbox for each item: chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. And if the person likes chocolate, we can check it. If they don't like strawberry, leave it unchecked. If they like vanilla, check it. What that does is these checkboxes are fields that you can search. But you can search for that data in two ways. And you can do this with virtually all fields in Act. And you can look for things that are and things that are not. In other words, if I wanted to find all the people that like strawberry ice cream, I could do that by knowing and looking for the fact that that checkbox is checked or it's true. But also, I could sort of reverse that sort or that search by finding all the people that don't like strawberry on the assumption that the checkbox is not checked. So I can find all of that information. But this is the thing. Sometimes when you're entering data like this, let's say you go to a customer and all three checkboxes are not checked. Does that mean we haven't assessed them yet and checked or filled in what they like? Or does that mean that all those items are false? In other words, they don't like any of those flavors. So when you look at data in a screen or on a layout in Act, that always becomes a little bit of an issue. Was it done or was it not done? Are they supposed to be blank, or are they supposed to have data in it? So when you're entering data in Act, if you have one field, the likelihood of making a mistake with one field is less than if you have 100 fields. So if you have 100 fields and you're trying to contain data or keep track of data, the odds of making a mistake are greater if you have 100 fields. That only makes sense. The point I'm trying to make is this. When you're entering data in Act to get information out, garbage in, garbage out, gig out, the more data you put in, the more data you can get out. First, it's time consuming. Second, there's room for mistakes. And do you have to assume there is a mistake when you're entering all this data? I think you have to. So in this particular situation, as I found myself thinking about my client and the way they're keeping information, I realized there's more room for them to make a mistake. You have to assume almost that a mistake has been made, and you can't assume that the data you have in front of you is accurate. So because of that, maybe now what you have to do is you have to look at this data and say, wait, what is the end game here? What is the real goal of keeping all this data? And is keeping all of this information truly important to the end goal? Let me tell you what I'm thinking about. So at the end of the day, if the goal of keeping all this data is to have a meeting or a conversation with the other person on the other end of this data, in other words, the contact, if the goal is to talk to that person one way or the other, maybe it's an on-site meeting, a Zoom meeting, or something of that nature, isn't the real goal here nothing to do with that data? But isn't the real goal just getting that meeting? Because once you get the meeting, you can always revisit that contact and review the data. But also something might have changed. Maybe now they like strawberry ice cream and you didn't have that data. Maybe something has changed. So if you lack the perfect data set, if you lack data, can't that be overcome with good writing? So in other words, if I send an email out to people that like strawberry ice cream and I find all the people that like strawberry ice cream and I send out a sales email about all the people to all the people that like strawberry, well, what about the people that strawberry is unchecked and maybe they do? Maybe I didn't check it. Maybe I forgot to do it. So the point of all of this is this. Sometimes entering data can be misleading or a waste of time. And I always try to suggest to people, keep the end goal in sight before you enter all this data. If the goal is to communicate with that person, the data is irrelevant because you can always ask those questions once you talk to that person. You can renew the discussion. Hey, do you like strawberry ice cream? How about chocolate and vanilla? Great. Now I know. But I would always assume my data is incorrect. Now layer on top of that my one-on-one relationship with that data. I'm looking at it. But what if you have other employees that are tracking that data for you? How do you know for sure that they did that data entry perfectly? And isn't this sort of a waste of time in a way to get so caught up in data that you can't necessarily rely on or be sure that it is indeed perfect? So as a small business person, we only have so many hours in the day. And when we have just so many things to do to run our businesses, do we sometimes get caught up in trying to make everything perfect when the reality is we can get by without perfection? We don't have to have perfect data. If we keep sight of the end goal, my philosophy has always been that good writing could be a way to overcome inadequate or incomplete data. For example, instead of sending out an email to all the people that like strawberry ice cream, send an email out to everyone assuming they like all three flavors and write an email very briefly about what they can get if they happen to like that flavor. So put out an offer for vanilla, put out an offer for chocolate and strawberry. Just assume they like it and don't worry about the data. I know some of you will listen to this and say, nope, that doesn't make sense. I can't do that. But just keep in mind the amount of time it took to keep all your data in place versus you could have just picked up the phone, called the person, or sent them an email and communicated, where at the end of the day, that was the goal. And once you get the meeting, once you're talking to the person, you can ask questions. Once you get the meeting, you can review that contact and try to get the best information in preparation for the meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tony Holowitz. I just want to throw that concept, those ideas out there because I'm working with a client right now in which some of this is coming up, and it's gotten me to thinking about this issue. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Again, my name is Tony Holowitz. Have a great day. Bye now.